Good morning and welcome to Cooks and Cars. I'm Rob D'Amico alongside Adam Merlin here from Merlin Auto Group. Welcome to episode number 2. This week we're going to be talking about a few things. One of them is going to be the cold weather, obviously taking care of your egg. We got Chris Schemm. He's going to be joining us, Titletown Griller. He'll be talking about some things getting ready for the holiday. You know, I think he's doing a beef Wellington, a prime rib, all that great stuff. Adam's going to be talking about how to take care of and winterize your car, basically getting ready for the winter, whether you're a daily driver or for storage. And I think that's going to be cool today. And then we got later on, we got Jordan Taylor is going to be joining us. Ricky was supposed to be on last week, but he couldn't make it on. They were actually doing a triathlon, and that's something I have no interest in.
I was going to say I've never canceled an engagement because I was doing a triathlon, but that's certainly a good excuse. I'm going to add that to my excuse bank.
And then we also have a special guest coming up from Butler Tire.
Yeah, from Butler Tire. You know, when people ask about what do you do, the things you need to do for your car in the winter, you know, and you know, my tire pressure light comes on all the time, and what does that mean and stuff like that. So we brought our good friends on from Butler Tire, Craig Dobrin, who's one of the principals of the companies here, and he's going to talk to us about tires and wintertime tires and summertime tires. You know, here in Atlanta, it may not be that critical, but you know, other parts of the world it is. And so just try to answer any questions about the cars and have a good time. So.
I don't know. A couple of years back, I got stuck in that snowpocalypse. That was a nightmare for me. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, but you know, that was poor planning on the on the city government
part,
as well as you. I decided to stay at my office till like 7 o'clock that night, and basically all the cars were disabled on the side of the road, and I made it home in like 5 minutes.
So what did you have then?
I was driving a Range Rover.
Yeah.
That was back before Range Rovers fell apart all the time.
So
but they still do, but sorry, I don't think we can get any sponsors from Range Rover anytime soon.
Not anytime soon.
But no, look, it's a good time. So anyway, you know, there's still a lot of fun things you can do with your car in the wintertime.
Yep.
But the most important thing, you know, they're machines, and if you put them up for a long time and you don't use them, you can end up with bigger problems than you know, getting stuck in the snow apocalypse.
Yeah.
So
been there, done that. Took 8 hours to get home, which is normally about a 40-minute drive. All right. Again, this show is built for you guys to interact with us. You can do that. I also saw Wade saying hello. We will say hi to Wade as well. But you can do so through the chat on YouTube, Facebook. You can also go to cooksandcars.com. If you're looking for some information there, you can join our newsletter, stuff like that. Also find our links to our social media, which is at Cooks and Cars, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that great stuff. And make sure you subscribe to us as well. We're going to get to our first guest today. Titletown Griller is going to be joining us. He is a BGETeamGreen member. So, Chris, welcome to Cooks and Cars. Thanks for coming on with us this morning.
Hey, Rob and Adam. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Oh, man, no problem. Hey, real quick, obviously it's that time of year. You got some family, maybe. I don't know if, you know, with the pandemic going on, how that's going to happen and affect people in the world with meeting up with family during the holidays. So you got some great cooks planned for the holidays. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, things are going to be a little bit more low-key this year than what we're used to. But, you know, whenever I get together with family, friends, usually around food and what we're going to cook. And, you know, when it comes down to Christmas time or the holidays, you usually like to have some sort of nice protein that kind of is the star of the show. And there's kind of two different ways we go with that. One way is the prime rib, which, you know, is always a classic cook to do. It's something that people might be a little intimidated for just because of the cost. It's actually a really easy roast to prepare. You know, they're showing up some pictures of one of my old prime rib cooks right there. And, you know, the easiest thing I do is I season that with salt and pepper. Usually salt the day before, let it sit on a drying rack in the fridge to kind of give it that 24-hour dry brine before cooking it. Add some pepper, and then I just reverse sear it. You know, it's one of those kind of easy ways to do it and cook it. The only thing you have to remember is, like the picture we just showed, is prime rib has a lot of fat. So when you go to sear it, you're going to have some flame ups. So you got to kind of take that into consideration.
So when you do that, you're talking about a reverse sear. Why don't you explain what a reverse sear is so maybe somebody who doesn't understand that knows what they're doing?
Sure. So one of the easiest ways to do that is I put it on my grill, which I happen to use a Big Green Egg because, we're talking about winter, being Titletown Griller. I'm up in Green Bay, and obviously, I'm cooking.
Oh, so you're a big a Bears fan, are you?
Yeah, sure. We spend, I'd like to think, we have 2 seasons, winter and construction. So, we have a fair amount of our grilling time is in the winter. So the Big Green Egg, I think it's insulated a little bit better, allows you to kind of hold temp in those cooler climates. So I set it up for indirect, meaning there's no flames directly underneath it. And I start that usually a little bit lower and slower. So we're talking 250 to maybe 300 degrees at most, depending on kind of the time frame I have to cook it and how big the roast is. Usually add a little bit of mild smoke, like a hickory or a pecan. Some 2017. So we got together. He was all excited. He's like, all right, we're going to do this every week. We went to Oktoberfest, which actually that was the year that my team won. So that was really exciting. I'm sitting in the airport on the way home on Sunday, and that's when Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone. So now all of a sudden, Brett's the starting quarterback for the rest of the season. So things got put on hold for a little bit. And then once the off season came around, we started grilling again. He started bringing Lane Taylor over, who's a big barbecue guy from Texas. Loves his barbecued ribs, and some of the best ribs I ever had were made by Lane. And we just started cooking together. We talk a lot online. It was a very surreal moment. We started to hanging out, and they were doing their OTAs, and Brett's like, all right, I'm gonna have some people over at my house. We'll just cook all day. And I went over there, and it's me and about 14 Green Bay Packers watching the NBA Finals. It was a pretty cool time.
All right. Well, hey, Chris, let everybody know where they can find you online so they can follow you and follow along throughout the holiday season and all your great cooks that you have online.
Yeah, you can find me. Most of my stuff I do through Instagram. It's at Titletown Griller. You can also find me on Facebook by the same name. I'm trying to do as much as we can right now during this weird time. So if people have questions, this is a popular time to reach out. Send us a message. I'll be more than happy to respond if you have questions about your cook, what you have coming up. But yeah, that's at Titletown Griller, all one word. And you can get a hold of me there, and we have some fun.
And Chris makes a great point. That's the whole reason we're on the show as well, is for you. So please, if you're watching us today live, send in your questions. Use the chat function to send us your questions. We want to answer your questions and cater it to whatever it is that you're interested in, whether it's cooking, cars, whatever the subject matter is. We want to hear from you guys as to what it is that you're thinking. So,
except for baseball, I know nothing about baseball.
Yeah. Well,
can't help you out there.
Yeah, we got computers here. We can Google it.
Yeah, we got the Google. All right, Chris, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. Thanks for your time today, and we look forward to great things in the future with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. You guys have a good, happy holiday, and be safe.
You the same. Thanks.
All right. We're going to take a break here and come back. We're watching Cooks and Cars. We'll be back in a second. There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated, where grilling traditions and new techniques are perfected. Here in Big Green Egg Country, you can grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Simple to light, easy to use, comes with a free lifetime warranty. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Shop online for home delivery at BigGreenEgg.com. That's BigGreenEgg.com.
Adam Merlin, president of Merlin Auto Group, and over the past 12 years, we've been successful at building our business with the undying focus of taking the pain points out of what normally is a miserable process, which is buying an automobile. And it was on this mindset that about 2 years ago, we launched our service department. Because let's face it, the only thing that's potentially negative about owning these exotics or ultra luxury cars is the fact that you have to service them. Is the fact that they stand the chance of possibly breaking and you don't know what's wrong. It's the fear of the unknown that we as the consumer sometimes are really nervous about before we go and buy that Ferrari, before we go and buy that Aston Martin. And that's the reason we started Merlin Auto Group Service Department. We went out and got factory trained, certified technicians for Ferrari, Maserati, Bentley, Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, and Porsche, to make sure that you had somebody that you can rely on to help you manage your automotive investment and make sure that the right things were getting fixed, they were getting fixed the right way by people who knew how to fix them and were willing to take the time, answer your questions, and make sure that you were satisfied and you understood what was going on. If you're looking for a shop where you can get an appointment easily, where we'll answer the phone, where you can talk to the technician, where we genuinely care about your problem and truly want to help you solve it and be your partner in your automotive ownership experience, you need to give us a chance here at Merlin Auto Group.
Welcome back to Cooks and Cars. I'm Rob D'Amico alongside Adam Merlin, and we were just talking about the egg being winterized and what to do and how to handle that in, whether it's snow, ice, whatever that may be, in the elements, and the egg can handle that. Talk about the cars, though, because cars go through the same thing. You mentioned it earlier that if you leave them alone, it could be damaging more.
Yeah. So, it's amazing in the summertime in brutal heat. There's a lot of things you need to do to make sure that your car can make it through that, especially if you have exotic cars that are wrapped in leather dashboards, leather headliner, stuff like that. The sun, the UV rays that bake through your car can cause incredible amounts of damage. Less so in the summertime on the mechanical side. In the wintertime, the best analogy is, as you get older and it gets cold outside, your joints get kind of, tight and your bones are tight and everything's sore. What? So it's the same thing with your car, and the newer your car, the less you have to do. The older your car, the more you have to do. And depending on the climate where you live, this is a much bigger issue than not. So we're fortunate enough to be terrific partners and good friends with the guys over at Butler Tire here in Atlanta. They've been in business for over 60 years, helping people take care of their cars, from just, changing your tires to make sure you have the best tires on your car for your daily drive, or customizing your cars with wheels and all kinds of different accessories. And, it's always amazed me and kind of how Craig and I, who's one of the principals at Butler Tire, who's here with us today, kind of how we bonded was we started talking. He actually came in to buy a car at Merlin Auto Group, and we just kind of started talking, and we started talking about business philosophies. And, one of our things at Merlin Auto Group is, it's not about cheap, it's about good, right? I mean, if you're buying a Ferrari, right, you don't want a cheap one. Yeah. You want the best one. And one of the most important things on your automobile, I mean, you think about it, you're driving a 5,000, 6,000, 4,000 pound car, and the only thing that separates you from the concrete are your tires, right? And it just blows my mind, Rob, how many people want the cheapest possible tire, right? You buy a $200,000 car and then tires are $2,500 and people freak out. And they, can I get a used tire? I mean, it's like you're driving 100 miles an hour in a 4,000 pound machine, right? And the only thing, I mean, it's like 2 inches of rubber that separates you from. I mean,
it's a patch like this that touches the road.
Right. So, I mean, arguably one of the most important things on the car are your tires. And so Craig is here. And I think, when the wintertime comes and the temperatures shift, Craig, I imagine one of the busiest things that happens in your stores is people come in with that pesky tire pressure light that's on. And that's kind of the start of the whole process of preparing your car for the winter.
Yeah, that's always it's always a joy when we watch the temperatures and we see like a 30 or a 40 degree drop. We know the next morning we turn the key at 8 o'clock to walk in the building, and it'll be a parking lot full of cars, and some are worse than others. We have bigger problems with Nissans, Infinitis, Toyotas, where the level of sensitivity is a little bit greater. But you've got to remember that light is based on the actual temperature or the actual pressure inside the tire, and that's going to drop based on temperature. So at 85 degrees outside, if you've got 34 pounds of pressure inside your tire, and that night the temperature goes down to 35 or 36 degrees, you're losing 50 pounds of temperature. It's about 5 pounds of pressure in the tires. And that's just normal physics. As the volume goes up, the temperature goes up, and the inverse is true as well. So colder temperature drops the pressure. A lot of times it's just enough to trigger that tire pressure light. It's not a difficult thing to correct. And typically you can tell if there's a quote unquote problem with the car if you look at the tire pressure sensor. Some cars will display the actual pressures and some don't. But the ones that display it, if they're all down and they're all down about the same amount, probably everything is okay. It's just based on the temperature being a lot colder. If you've got one tire that's significantly lower than the others, there's probably something wrong with it. Something that we found that sort of helps to mitigate that, we sell nitrogen and inflate your tires with nitrogen. It's an optional service. Takes about 10 or 15 minutes if you want to swap over a non-nitrogen car. Nitrogen's inert. It's a little more stable than air. And although it does fluctuate and it's subject to the same physics that air is, it does it to a lesser extent. So typically if you come in and we install tires for you, or you have tires installed somewhere else, which is fine too, bring your car by, put nitrogen in the tires, and you'll eliminate or reduce that light by a huge amount.
So that's probably a great tip when it comes to this time of year when the temperatures do change. There's a lot of temperature fluctuation for your daily driver, even, to go and just take that proactive action and do that and switch over to the nitrogen, so you will have less issues, because unfortunately, and we've had this happen with some of our clients, it's the sensitivity of those pressure monitors. It kind of makes it the boy that cried wolf, right? And so then all of a sudden you see the TPMS light come on and you don't pay any attention to it. Next thing you know, you're on the highway and you're stranded with a flat tire because you didn't pay any attention to your TPMS light, because it's come on and off dramatically. So we found that putting the nitrogen in there helps eliminate some of that, so that you can take it seriously. And again, it's a treat to have Craig here, and we want to answer your questions about your car. So please, send in questions. We got a couple questions during the week when we sent out a notice that people, that we were going to talk about winterizing your car. So one of the questions we actually had is, it came from up north, a client of ours in Chicago who stores his cars in the winter, every single winter, and he basically stores it all winter long. So you're talking, 2, 3, 4 months up in Chicago. I'm not sure how long the winter lasts. And he said, I always go out there and I start my car and I let it run for 20 minutes, while it's in storage. Does that make sense? People think that you need to make sure you start the car. And I asked Wade, who's our master Ferrari technician at Merlin Auto Group, and he said, actually, if it's an older car, you're actually doing more damage to the car than you are doing good. It's true, the idea that you should start the car and run the car and exercise the car, but you only should do that if you can get the car out, if you can get it hot, you can get it up to normal operating temperature. So you really need to take the car out, take it for a drive, let the water temp get up, let the oil temp get up, and then you're actually doing benefit to the car. Otherwise, what's happening is you're creating a lot of moisture because of the difference in the temperature. The second you turn the car on, in that heat, it's just like if you walked outside on a summer day with a cold drink, all of a sudden it starts sweating. Well, that's what's happening inside your motor when you just started. And if you don't get it hot enough, the heat, the water temperature, it doesn't get hot enough to boil out that moisture. So all that moisture staying inside your engine, and that's how things end up starting to corrode inside your car. So during the winter time, or anytime, if you put your car up for a long time storing it, if you can't get it out and exercise it and get it up to operating temperature, you're really better off not starting it at all. Now, a good thing to do is to hook it up. Obviously, you need to hook it up to a trickle charger anytime you leave any car for an extended period of time. But if you hook it up to a charger while it's being stored and turn the battery on, it's very important to exercise all of the mechanical functions, all the electrical functions. So get in there, roll your windows down, roll them up, move your seats back. No different than you. If you laid in your bed for 90 days, you would not be able to get up and stand up to get out. It's the same thing. You're for 5 minutes. Right. No, that's right. And so that's really important. We do have a question. I think we'll direct this to Craig. Yeah. What happens if you do nothing about your tire pressure, in the wintertime, or really,
Is this, are you speaking in reference to before you store the car or just before driving the car in extreme winter?
I would, so the question doesn't specify, but I would imagine
we can answer both.
Yeah.
Typically you're going to have to adjust your tire pressure when the colder weather rolls around. You can't get around physics. So there's no way that if a car specifies, let's say 32 PSI front and rear, and you set that in the summertime, if you go driving 6 or 7 months, you're going to lose about a pound of pressure per month. If you're using air, it's about a quarter of that if you're using nitrogen. So even 6 months down the road, a car with 32 PSI is going to be at 25 or 26 PSI if you've got air in the tires. That's not enough to carry you through the wintertime. Add to that a 20, 30, 40, 50, even 60 degrees. If you're in Chicago, temperature drop, you're going to lose another 5 or 6 PSI. Now you're down to 20 pounds of pressure on the tires. It's not enough to carry the load of the car. So at the very, very least, I would make sure that you set your pressure for the season. Bring your car in. If you're in Atlanta, we're happy to check it. There's no charge. Buy your tires from us or anywhere else. We'll bring it in. And it's not always based on the door placard. Most cars built after about 2001 have got a door placard. When you open the door, it will tell you what the recommended pressures are. On European cars, that's usually like a fully loaded car with 5 people and bags and full fluids. That's not generally the right number. That can be found under the gas cap, but you want to set that based on the actual temperature and the conditions that you're going to be driving the car. The second part of that question would be for storage. It really depends on the nature of the tire. An all-season tire, if you're going to put a car in a garage and it's going to be 20 or 25 degrees all season, or again up north it could be even colder than that, An all-season tire will sort of weather the storm okay as long as the pressure's set properly. If you're on an R compound tire, like a lot of Porsche, like a GT2 RS or a GT3 RS, or a lot of these higher-end performance cars, they're on a Michelin Sport Cup 2 or equivalent tire. There's actually a warning on the side of the tire that says absolutely under no circumstances should the tire be stored under 35 or 36 degrees. What happens is the compound of the tire gets really hard and really brittle, and you can't undo that. So if you leave a tire that's supposed to have 80 or 90 degrees in it, that's a track-driven tire, and you park it on a car and it's going to sit in an extended winter for 3, 4, 5, 6 months at 10, 15, 20, 30 degrees, you're actually going to ruin the tire. So my bottom line advice is if you've got an R compound tire or an extreme duty summer tire and you're going to leave the car parked, either find something that you can have where you've got some heat in the place where it's, above 35 or 36 degrees just to keep it warm enough, or put an all-season tire on the car and store your R compound tires for use in the summer when you're actually driving the car.
Yeah, I want to ask you, I saw a graphic we had put up when you were talking about the nitrogen. Nitrogen also helps from the rims corroding. What type of corrosion happens? Like, obviously, if you're buying these and you got a nice car and you upgrade the rims and put some rims and tires on it, you want to keep those rims nice. But what is the corrosion that's happening? What's happening inside the tire that makes that happen?
Typically, it's oxygen that'll start to break down the tire. Luckily, it's been less of a problem lately. That was a bigger issue with chrome wheels, which thankfully went out 4 or 5 years ago. They're still out there, but typically, if you see a wheel that's really shiny, it's generally polished with a clear coat, so it's not as subject to that. And we've been doing nitrogen for about 12 or 13 years, and that was a huge mitigator of that. And it's not so much that it's nitrogen, it's that it's not oxygen. So once you fill a tire with nitrogen, we get about 99.5% purity. There's a little bit other mixed in there, but any corrosion that happens will be reduced by almost 100% if you use that in the tires. All
right. And then if anybody's looking for information, where can they find you online and obviously here in Atlanta?
The best resource is definitely our website, butlertire.com. We're also on Instagram at Butler Tire, Facebook, Twitter, all the general social media outlets. Happy to, accommodate any questions by phone if you want to come to the store. None of our guys are commissioned, so if you want to come in there and hang out and just talk tires, you're more than welcome to come by and do whatever you like. We'll help guide you in the right direction. Love to help you with any issues along the way. You can always email info@butlertire.com, and the question will be directed to the most appropriate store or the most appropriate person.
Take it from me, I've been in the car business for 20 years. I've been a car freak for, probably since I was 3. So, whatever that is, 37, 38 years, and I never really realized. I never really did realize the importance of tires, and I was one of those people that I always wanted the cheapest tire. It was important to me to get a name brand for some reason because I thought that meant it was a better tire. But then I wanted to get the cheapest tire, and really, it's so important. The level of knowledge. Craig knows so much about. Have this R compound. All the stuff he's talking about. There's so much that goes into it, and when you think about the importance of your tire and the safety factor, forget about performance handling, stuff like that. There really is so much to know, and it just goes back to the old saying where if you think it's cheap, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait till you hire an amateur. Yeah. And as we ventured into exotics and more, more specialty type cars, it gets even harder. It isn't just buy a $1,500 machine, mount some tires on it, put them on your car, and go. There's so much to it and taking care of it, and so come see us at Merlin, and we like I said, we're a partner with Butler Tire. There's not a moment where there's not a car of ours or a client's car of ours at the Butler Tire store on Roswell Road. So, we're a big partner and client of theirs, and we encourage people to certainly look. It just involves taking care of your car.
Hey, Craig, before you head out, I know you're an egghead. So what's your favorite thing to cook on an egg?
I'm a burger man through and through. There's just something about that it's a good comfort food. It's something I've always been on the quest, and I am by no means a perfectionist. But I will say, the first time I ever fired my egg up, and this was I think I'm in for 9 years now, and I'm still an amateur by every aspect here. I don't think I've ever cooked anything poorly on the egg, and that sort of echoes a question that Adam had before. It doesn't really matter what kind of meat I've put on that thing; it's come out absolutely perfect every single time. So burgers for sure. For some reason, I don't know what it is about the Big Green Egg, but every vegetable I've ever cooked on there tastes like heaven. Yeah. It always comes out perfect, and I don't know what it is. I can burn anything on any other medium, but for some reason, it's taken to my cooking style very, very well.
Pizzas, have you done that yet?
Not yet. I
Right.
do have the pizza stone. That's a recent purchase, so that's something that's on deck for the next couple of weeks for sure.
And then you were talking about the different meats. I will say this: if you're ever doing a brisket on the Big Green Egg, don't buy a choice. I mean, you get a good price. You were talking about it before. Don't buy something cheap, because it's not that a choice piece of brisket. Really, it takes the marbling out of it, the fats out of it, the fat count is out. So it's hit or miss. Even though it's the egg, it's still hit or miss with a choice piece of meat. You want to go ahead and, if you're doing a brisket and you're spending that type of money, go for the good stuff. At least go prime, or you can go the Wagyu style or something like that. But you definitely got to up the game on that one, because sometimes it's right on and sometimes it turns out a little dry. Even though it's an egg, it's the meat itself. It doesn't have the fat count.
It's everything we're talking about. When it goes to buying your car, buy value, don't buy price. When you're buying a grill, buy value, don't buy price. The Big Green Egg isn't the cheapest grill out there, but
That's
I promise you, from somebody who's never cooked in 41 years, like, I'm a master when it comes to steaks. Like, my neighbors want to come over and have steaks at my house, and they think I'm some superstar, and I'm like, yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, but I mean, I buy a really good steak and I cook it on my egg, and I look like a hero. So, it just, don't, I mean, you're better off buying better hamburger meat, right? Like, buy, a little bit better hamburger meat than like a cheap prime rib, and make the best hamburger.
Yeah.
I mean, just figure it out to make it worth it if you're going to go through it.
But isn't the whole thing sort of comes full circle, is that whatever it is that you're doing with your life, if you can find a good advocate who's going to guide you with the best advice, then you're in the right place. And that's why, to echo something Adam said earlier as well, we have a very similar business philosophy. It's not about taking your money and going, thank you very much, we hope to never see you again. If you want to buy the most expensive product that we have or that Merlin has, they're going to sell it to you happily, but we want to know, what are you going to be doing with it? What's the purpose of it? And it's the same thing with meat. If you've got a good butcher, ask them for some guidance. I'm sure they're going to give you the best possible way to go.
No doubt. All right. Hey, as we're waiting for Jordan's on, we're having some technical issues there. We're getting some sound connected to him so he can hear us. But before we head out, I have bought some tires before, and I bought a softer compound. I know that's great for grip and all that stuff, but is that really recommended? I mean, for street use, I wasn't tracking the car, wasn't doing anything like that. Is there a happy medium there?
It really depends. Atlanta's kind of a unique place because I don't feel like there's a good need to put an all-season tire on there. And a lot of people think that an all-season just means that the car is going to get a lot more miles on it.
Yeah.
But again, it would just be, the type of vehicle, the kind of driving that you do. Some people are going to drive a $250,000 Porsche. They're going to daily drive it to work and back. It comes with an R compound tire. You don't really have a choice. If you put something else on there, the car is going to be all over the road. But typically, if you're not looking for the ultimate in grip, then I probably would recommend something in the all-season range with a mileage warranty. But it all varies. What kind of car do you drive? How often do you drive it? Even if it's a daily driver, do you want to take it up to the mountains and go beat it up for a couple hours on a Saturday or Sunday morning?
Yes.
All those questions, are something that my guys are trained to ask you, so that when you come in, you go, hey, I need tires for my XYZ vehicle. We're going to try to match you with the best possible tire, not only for you and for your vehicle, but the combination of what you're doing with it.
Another thing that we've learned, people like to customize their cars. And while I'm not a huge fan, I mean, I really like the OEM look of cars. We've had some cars come in where people have gone and bought some, aftermarket wheels, larger size, this, that, and the other. And they'd be shocked at the level of damage that they can do to their car by putting the wrong size wheel on there, by putting some cheap wheel that doesn't really, that looks good, but it's really not very good quality. And Craig, if you can kind of speak to how important it is to choose the right wheel, the right size for the car, a wheel that's designed for that specific car. It's kind of like square peg, round hole type thing that I've learned. If you can kind of address a little bit of that.
Sure. Again, there's a huge qualitative aspect to anything that you buy. So we'll obviously try to, again, match whatever the best that we can is for your budget. But don't overwheel the car. Just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. And we've got a bunch of folks, you can do it. You can overdo it a little bit, and that's one thing. But I don't know if any of you have ever driven around the streets of Buckhead. But when you start getting into those 20, 25, 30 series tires, things go wrong pretty quickly. There's a lot of factors that you have to consider on top of the aesthetics. Is the new tire, which is going to typically be a lower profile. If your car comes with 20-inch wheels and you would have put a 21 or a 22, the overall height of the tire doesn't change, but the sidewall thickness does. So from a 20 to a 22-inch tire, the sidewall is an inch shorter. You've given up an inch on the top and the bottom of the tire. You've got to make sure that the tire is load rated properly. The worst thing you can do is go, well, that's going to fit fine. But if the tire that you put on there is not designed to carry the load of the vehicle, that's when you find yourself on the side of the road with a massive problem. Obviously, there's other issues like fender clearance and offset and how far in and out against the fender that the wheel sits, but that's what you leave to us. Typically, if you come in with an idea of what it is that you're looking for, if it's not going to fall within the realm of safety and proper application, we're not going to do it. We're not going to sell it to you, and we would recommend that you probably buy it elsewhere, and we don't really want to install it for you either. If you want it done right, we're going to make sure that the load rating, the sizes, the offsets, the widths are all going to match the car, and that's even more important on an all-wheel drive car. If you change tire diameters and everything's not in check, the all-wheel drive system freaks out. In a lot of cases, it'll die on you, and that's not a repair you want to have.
Hey, Craig, I just want to. I always see this with some of those, little Hondas and things like that, where they camber and cast. Yeah, you're already shaking.
I'm shaking my head. Yep.
What happens when somebody wants to come in and do that? Do you tell them, hey, man, that's not really great for these tires?
Luckily, that's not a huge demographic for us. And believe it or not, it takes a tremendous amount of work. If you see one of those cars going down the road, it could be a $3,000 or $4,000 Honda Civic, but chances are they've got $5,000 or $10,000 worth of suspension work to make that happen. It's not cheap. But also those guys are wearing through tires in a couple hundred miles. You got a car with 15 degrees negative camber and the top of the wheel barely inside the fender, and you can see light at the bottom of the outside of the tire. Those guys are going a couple hundred miles, few weeks, and they're coming in and getting something else, but they don't handle well. They don't drive well. It's purely for aesthetics and a terrible idea across all fronts as far as we're concerned.
All right. We're still working on getting Jordan here. He seems to have some trouble hearing us. So we'll continue our conversation here.
I got a question. They want to know how to put on a live podcast effectively without technical difficulty. I encourage you. We can answer that question one day, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully. It's weird. We tested this on Wednesday, and everything was perfect. I mean, we brought on guests. The guests could hear us. We could see them. Nothing froze. We actually did a live thing on YouTube. And everything was fine. And here we are today going live, and we're still having
maybe it's a weekend
issues.
Thing. Maybe it's a Saturday thing. Is it a Saturday thing?
It could be. I don't know.
I mean,
listen, nothing has changed here in the studio, or here in the building. So I don't know. Hey, real quick though, Adam, after last week, I was able to go do a car show, and I took one of the cars out to with the Cooks and Cars out there. It was a lot of fun. You let me take a 612, and I got to tell you, it was a blast. I had a lot of fun in it. It got a lot of looks out there. Hopefully we introduced some people to the show while we're out there, but it was a blast, and I wanted to thank you for letting me do that. It was pretty cool.
No, it's my pleasure. And, I always find it's interesting. One of the first Ferraris that I ever bought when we decided to go heavily into Ferrari, it was actually the first Ferrari I bought to resell in our quest to become the largest independent Ferrari dealer in the country, was a 612. My motivation to buy it back then was it was a 12-cylinder, and B, it had a back seat. And at the time I had two small children.
Yeah.
And what I learned was so few people know what the 612 is. It looks very different than most. But it does have a back seat. That, I put, one rear facing car seat and one forward facing car seat in. I looked, people laughed at that, but it's an amazingly practical car that you can drive every day. This is the predecessor to the FF, which people argue is one of the ugliest Ferraris ever made. I like them.
I love them.
I think they're just amazingly cool. But I'm a front engine, I'm a 12-cylinder guy. Doesn't have to be front engine. I'm a big Testarossa guy, which is rear engine, but but anyway, yeah, I'm glad you took it out there. I'm glad people got to see it, and amazing. I mean, those cars were $300,000-$400,000 back in their day, and it's amazing what you can pick them up for now.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I was actually parked next to a FF out there at the show, and then a couple other guys that were on a couple rows over. Some other Ferraris were out there. One of the 308s were out there. I don't think it was a fiberglass body, but it was still a 308. It was nice to see out there.
Look, I mean, it's always cool to see a 308. My heart goes out to that. I used to watch Magnum PI as a kid. I say this all the time. I have no idea what the show is about. I never actually watched.
Just wanted the car.
I used to tape them with my VCR, and I would just pause every scene with the Ferrari so I could see the Ferrari.
Yeah.
So, that's just one of the most iconic looking Ferraris ever.
Hey, Craig, I want to thank you for coming on with us. We do appreciate it. Again, the website and where people could follow you.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invite. ButlerTire.com is absolutely your best resource. Instagram, Facebook at ButlerTire.com. If you need to email, info@ButlerTire.com, and we'll direct your question to the most appropriate party.
All right. We're going to switch gears here a little bit and go to Jordan Taylor. Jordan, welcome to Cooks and Cars. Thanks for coming on. Sorry, we're having some issues here today, but everything going okay? Can you hear us?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Going once. This might be one of those situations where
something about racers. The Cooks always get on. last week Ron Montoya. It's like we didn't want to hear him either.
Can you hear me?
Okay, it seems like he can hear us. We can't hear him, so we're going to have Ryan do what he did last week for us, our producer back at the shop, help us out. So I'm going to ask a question, and then Jordan can answer, and then we'll go from there. But Jordan, first of all, the C8 Corvette winning the championship. Talk about that great. I guess we can't hear it. Okay.
Can you hear me? No.
Hey, Jordan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, but we can't hear him. Okay, this is okay. C8 Corvette, you win the championship in the IMSA WeatherTech. Talk about that and then the incredible season you had. Yeah,
it was amazing. I think coming up 2020, the Corvette has always been known for the front engine C6, C5, C7, and to come out this year with the new mid-engine C8R. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of kind of hype around the car, but I think we came out super strong. It was a huge testament to the team, Corvette Racing, Pratt & Miller, to develop the car and, get it ready to race. And we came out of the Rolex 24, toughest race of the year. And in our car, we had no issues and finished fourth. And then from there, just went on a tear. And I think we won 5 races in our car. The other car won a race. So we ended up winning, I think, 6 or 7 races as a team. And such a competitive class as GTLM was pretty impressive. So I think it speaks volumes for the team. All the work they put in, especially over the COVID times when everything was down, we came back even stronger. So definitely looking forward to 2021 and, seeing how we can try and top this year.
Now, Jordan, we're talking to Jordan Taylor. It's Rob D'Amico, Adam Merlin, Cooks and Cars. Appreciate you coming on with us. Hopefully you're hearing us now. But, it was a rough season. You saw your brother. One of my favorite scenes was when Ricky got in, I think it might have been Atlanta, where he got in with another racer, and you had come up and kind of intervened. I thought that was really cool because, you're on separate teams, but you're still brothers, and you're there to protect each other. And, I mean, your family in racing is pretty awesome, and I like that. Talk about that family atmosphere that you guys bring in racing.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it is definitely a family, aspect for us. We grew up with my dad racing. He grew up sports car racing, and, Ricky and I, we grew up here in Orlando. So Daytona for the Rolex, Sebring 12-hour, we're pretty much in our backyard, and we just grew up at the racetrack. So as soon as we kind of started driving, it was definitely a family sport. Especially we drove for our dad's team for a few years. We won the championship together in 2017, and the last couple of years we've been separate. This year all of us were separate. Even I was off of my dad's team with Corvette Racing. So it's kind of a weird aspect now when you're kind of at the track. We don't see each other too much. Usually we'll see each other, here and there throughout the day, maybe at lunch, and then definitely traveling to and from the track and sharing stories from the weekends. And it makes it difficult to everyone to be happy when you leave a race weekend. It's almost impossible. But I think as a whole this year, we can all be super happy. I won the championship. Ricky won the championship. My dad won the Rolex 24 and the Endurance Cup. So it's going to be hard to top this year, I think.
Yeah, he didn't win a championship, though. Did you hold that over his head?
Definitely, yeah.
I was going to ask that question. Like if y'all get together for the holidays and stuff like that, and somebody's having a good season, somebody's having a bad season. I mean, do y'all talk about those things? I mean, is it a sore subject? Does whoever's having the best season, do they like to do they gloat and walk around with all their walk in with your trophy? I mean, I know if it was me and my brothers, I mean, I'd have like my race car in the living room. Guys, I just want to make sure y'all know this is this
I'll
is
be
the car I
drinking out of this cup.
right. Do y'all do stuff like that?
I think Ricky and I are pretty quiet when it comes to that stuff. We don't like to, I guess, showboat and like kind of rub it in anyone's face. I think my dad's the only one that is probably the most like that. I think every race that he gets a trophy at, it ends up like in his living room, like in front of, as soon as you walk in the house, everyone can see it. So it's always a reminder, if you hadn't gotten a trophy that weekend, that he did. But at least at the end of the year, I think all of us would rather have a championship. So I think Ricky and I have the advantage through this offseason at least.
So we're talking to Jordan Taylor, it's Rob D'Amico, Adam Merlin, Cooks and Cars. You're driving the C8 Corvette. Adam, you had one in your shop a couple months ago, had the opportunity to get in it, and what a beautiful car. I've never been a Corvette guy until I think the Stingray, the C7, but the C8, spectacular car. I really like it. What are your thoughts? Obviously, you've taken a couple on a spin, and you're obviously racing one. What are your thoughts on that car?
I think it's a huge step forward for Corvette. I think, you know, they were known for the front engine car, the big V8, super loud race car, and the way the racing was going and the technology was developing. You know, this class, you needed a mid-engine car to be competitive. You needed some sort of different engine displacement and design to be competitive with fuel mileage and drivability. So this car was night and day different from the past cars. Even just driving it feels completely different. And the amazing thing is that a lot of the race car was developed through simulation, and they started on this project years ago, and, you know, at Charlotte in the simulator, you know, designing different pieces to try, and, you know, different air devices to see what it does to the race car. And, you know, through simulation, they figured out kind of what they wanted to build. And we started testing, I think, late or early last year with the first, you know, build of the car. And to come out so strong with a brand new race car like that was designed in simulation is crazy to think about. Especially like if you thought 10 years ago you could do that, you'd think it's impossible. But these days, with the technology developing as fast as it is, even this year during COVID, when we couldn't go track testing, we were allowed to go to the simulator, just the drivers, and all the engineers were kind of remotely working with us from Detroit when we were in Charlotte and doing setup changes. So by the time we did get back to racing at the real track, the car had developed so much, even though we hadn't even been on the track. So it's amazing how far it's come. I think the new car is exciting. I think a lot of Corvette fans love it. I think anytime you're winning, the fans are going to love whatever car you're driving. So I think it's definitely been a proof of sort of concept going to this mid-engine, and I'm looking forward to seeing more on the streets, you know, once production, you know, gets going, you know, strongly.
Yeah, 2 points I want to make. You know, it's interesting how many amazing car companies have been built off of their success in racing. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Ferrari is a car company today because Enzo Ferrari wanted to race. And so he started making road cars so that he could race. And the more he won, you know, the more people wanted to buy his cars. And so Jordan makes a great point. The other point that he made, and I want to echo it, is, you know, I used to sell new Chevrolets early on in my career. And if you would have told me that there would be a time when people would pay over MSRP for a Chevrolet Corvette, I would have told you that you've lost your mind. Yeah. You know, that there's nuts. Absolutely no chance. And the last one that we just sold was an 88 MSRP Corvette, gorgeous, fully loaded 3LT. I mean, it really was a gorgeous. It was a gorgeous car, and it had 4,000 miles on it. We had it priced, I forget, for like 105, 108, 110, somewhere in that range. And long story short, you know, a lot of the people that wanted to buy the car would say, you know, I can't believe that I'm going to have to pay over MSRP for a new, you know, for a Corvette.
Right.
And my point was, forget about the MSRP component of it. At the end of the day, if you get in this car and you drive it, and I tell you, you can have it for $105,000 compared to what else you can buy out there for $105,000, the car is 100% worth that if you compare it to the other cars. So just because the manufacturer suggested retail price is 88, right? Like you're not going to be disappointed putting $100,000 in this car because of the driving experience. And to Jordan's point, I mean, the technology, the car has come so far over the previous generation car. And it really does compare to a lot of the supercars out there that you can buy, you know, 3 or 4 of these for one of those.
Yeah, it's amazing. The bang for the buck is just, you can't even compete with it.
No, I mean it is, and it's a gorgeous car. I mean, the design. Corvettes have always been good looking. I'm not a big Corvette fan either.
Yeah.
But they've always been just incredibly good looking. And I think in this car, what they've done is they've really refined a lot of the fit and finish, and then just the drive, the sound. It's can't say enough to Chevrolet for their development and what they've done. As long as Jordan keeps winning races, I think that they'll keep the demand up.
Pressure's on, buddy.
I know. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Hey, real quick, plans for 2021, obviously back in the car. Talk about what your season looks like for next year.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we'll be back in 2021 with the C8R. I think the season right now, the schedule looks good. Who knows what's going to happen with COVID and, if we're going to have to cancel races and move things around again. This year was pretty crazy having to, switch tracks halfway through the year, changing the schedule up, going to the same track more than once. So hopefully next year it's back to normal. We can get back to tracks like Watkins Glen, Mossport, Long Beach, all those famous tracks that, is renowned for sports car racing. So hopefully it'll all be good and hopefully everyone will stay healthy through the process.
And then like we had Juan Pablo Montoya on last week. We were talking about racing. 2 days later, big announcement comes out. He's going to be doing something. You don't have anything like that this week, that a big announcement's going to come out or anything, is there?
No, I don't think so.
All right. What's that?
I would have let you guys break it first, though, if I did have some news.
All right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Fonzie going to be in France this year? I'm just checking.
I think I'm sure the fans do that. They brought me a doll one year.
Yeah. Hey, I will say this, man. Fonzie's got a great following. There's two things if you're following Jordan online: his Instagram with Rodney Sandstorm and his dog Fonzie. It is incredible stuff, great stuff to follow, and a lot of fun. And it must keep you busy because it's like you have all this. And then I will say your airplane, whenever you're on the airplane and you talk about the person next to you in the seat, there's some wild stuff going on in those airplanes.
There is some weird stuff. I'm a little worried these days just of like the privacy and people, getting upset with something. So I've kind of steered away from that a little bit for now.
All right, Jordan, where can everybody find you online and website, all that great stuff for next year?
I'm at Jordan 10 Taylor on all social medias.
And what have you cooked on your egg lately?
I've actually been trying to refine my steak cooking ability. I think still my signature that usually always goes well is the pizza. I think that's pretty hard to beat on the Big Green Egg.
Now, are you and Ricky still doing the Tuesday wing deal that you do?
It's actually switched over now to meat nights. We do a night every week, and we order Snake River Farms meats. And we've been kind of going through their catalog of trying different meats to see what we really like. And,
do you have a favorite?
Favorite so far, I think, is the picanha.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be
a lot of people. Yeah, it's unfamiliar to a lot of people, but that is a good piece of meat. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it's definitely. We definitely eat a lot on those nights, which is not a problem.
But hey, you work it off, man. You guys just did a triathlon, I think last weekend, was it?
Yeah, we did a half Ironman. It was actually at the Daytona Speedway, which was pretty cool. We we swam in the lake in the track, which was kind of gross. And then we rode. It was a little dirty. We rode 2 laps of the track and then rode another like 50 miles outside the track and then ran the road course, ran outside the track, ran the road course. So it was pretty cool.
Did you get out of the lake with like a little oil slick on you or something?
Yeah. I was worried about swallowing some of that water.
Yeah, that's gross, man. All right, man. Hey, you still got the little mini bag track in your backyard. I know you kind of, it's pretty cool. If you don't know what I'm talking about, he has a little mini bike. What is it, like a 50 or 125?
110. 110.
So you got a 110, and you literally in your backyard went through the grass and built a little track back there. Your neighbors got to love you.
Yeah. I moved actually. So the problem was
hold on, you got kicked out is what happened.
Yeah, probably. That's a complaint. But the problem was when I was trying to sell the house, everyone that came to look at it, they're like, "What happened to your backyard?" I was like, "Well, if you want a dirt bike track, you got one."
Was it in the listing?
It should have been. It would have maybe brought in a couple more buyers, I think.
All right, man. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. We do appreciate it.
All right. Good luck in your season.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
All right. Take care. As Jordan Taylor, great guy, great friend, and, a big egghead, and he's going to have a great season. There's no doubt about that. We appreciate him coming on with us. And Craig, thank you so much for coming on with us today. We do appreciate it. Again, before we head out, where can they find more information on you?
Thanks again for the invite, guys. Love being a part of it. ButlerTire.com, at Butler Tire on Instagram and Facebook, and info@ButlerTire.com for questions.
All right.
Sweet, man.
And Adam, Merlin Auto Group?
Yeah, merlinautogroup.com. Reach out to us any questions. We appreciate the questions that came during the week. If there's anything you want us to talk about, any hosts, any guests, any questions, anything like that, we encourage you to send them along. But it's merlinautogroup.com or Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. And if you want to find me personally, you can usually find me in the store here at the Big Green Egg headquarters, which is closed because of COVID, but I got a guy, so I kind of have an in. So my wife is very impressed at the monstrosity of a situation I've created with my Big Green Egg at home.
You probably making a big collection out in the backyard.
I actually have more Big Green Egg accessories than some of your dealers do at the moment because I've been on a quest to buy one of everything, and a lot of those guys are sold out. So I considered putting in an application to become a dealer right out of my patio.
We could do that. There's no doubt. All right. Hey, and if you're looking for more information on the Big Green Egg, you can go to biggreenegg.com. There's also shop.biggreenegg.com if you're looking. We sell some pretty cool stuff up there. Again, Adam mentioned it. Some of the stuff is sold out, but they're getting very close to getting back on track. I know charcoal's been one of those things, the acacia table, but they're getting pretty close. And I know this is a big time of year for gifts and some great stuff like that. I would look at like the expander. If somebody doesn't have the expander, Egg Genius is another one that's really big and something that you can get as a gift. We also have new fire bowls. There's a bunch of stuff. Again, check it out.
The coolest thing I want to say is like if all you know how to do is cook hamburgers, or all you know how to do is cook one thing. Like the coolest thing is like the pizza the pizza stone, right? So that's an incredible gift. It's at a good price point. Anybody that has an egg should have one of those. And the thing is, anybody that can cook a good pizza on an egg, I think is impressive, because I think that actually takes talent, right? I'm not sure that the steaks and all that do, but the amount of resources online and the amount of people, the videos, the stuff that you can get online, when it comes to cooking on your egg and to make sure you do it right, is really impressive to me. And so I encourage you, even if you're a guest or you're, whoever it is you're buying the gift for, if they don't know how to use it, just show them where they can go online and find all of those solutions, and they can all of a sudden become an expert at pizza. I mean, that's the whole reason I bought my egg.
Well, great show, guys, from Wade. Thank you, Wade. We do appreciate it. And thanks for everybody tuning in and dealing with the technical issues we've had. We apologize for that. And hopefully next week we don't have that. We may be on a different platform, if you will, but it'll still be on our Facebook, our Instagram, YouTube, all that great stuff on Merlin, on Big Green Egg, and Cooks and Cars. If you're looking for information on me, you can go to @RobD'Amico. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, all that great stuff. But please follow us along and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Cooks and Cars. It's at Cooks and Cars, as simple as that. Join our newsletter. We'll get you guys going. If you have any questions as well, you can also email us at cooksandcars@gmail.com. And that'll be changing soon too, but you can use that one for right now. All right, everybody, thank you very much. Ryan back at the shop. Great job today. I know we had some trouble. Not your fault. We'll take care of it. We'll get it all situated. And thanks for watching. For Adam, Craig, myself, Rob D'Amico, thank you for watching Cooks and Cars.